Hello! Okay, if you're watching this video, you are completing the alternative assignment for the color wheel. Now, I just want to emphasize, if you do have access to any kind of coloring materials, such as colored pencils, crayons, markers, paint especially, if you have access to any of these materials at home, please use those first, and only use Sketchbook if you don't have access to those things, which is completely okay if you don't have access to them. But if you do have coloring materials, use those and submit your assignment using actual paper and those materials. But for those of you who do not have coloring materials, we'll be using Sketchbook app. And to start, we're going to go ahead and click the little shape thing at the top and click the circle or the oval tool and just make a big circle. We'll make it about that big because we want to leave some room at the bottom. And at the bottom, we're going to click a rectangle and we're going to make two different rectangles. So we'll make one right here and another right here. Okay, now with our circle, we're going to now switch to the ruler, the guide tool right here, and find our ruler. We're going to make one horizontal line in the middle of the circle, just like that. And make sure it connects to both sides. And now we're going to do two more. So, two more diagonal lines, kind of splitting in an X across this circle. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. So there is our little color wheel. We want to make sure that there are 6 sections. So 6 sections because we'll be doing 3 primary colors and 3 secondary colors, which we learned about today in class. And with the bottom, these will be our tint and shade scales. So a tint is when you add white to a color so it becomes less saturated. That is a tint. And a shade is when you add more black to a color. And we'll be splitting these up. So just make little sections here. Oops. Using your ruler. They don't need to be perfectly even. Okay, so that one has about 8 sections, and we'll try to do the same for this side one. Again, does not need to be perfect or even. Oops. Okay, there we go. And if you want, you don't have to do this, but you can kind of label them. So I'll say this one is my tint, and this one is my shade. And actually, I will ask that you label them just so I can know. Okay, so now let's first focus in on this color wheel. We're going to put in our primary colors. If you remember, primary colors are the colors that make all other colors. So you can't mix 2 colors to make a primary. The primary colors, like we talked about, are blue, yellow, and red. So we're going to fill in these squares, and you can fill them in a couple of different ways. The easiest way would be to take the paint bucket tool up in the top here and to just fill it in like that. If you don't want to fill it in, if you want to make this a more interactive experience, you can use one of the kind of paintbrush tools, since we'll be painting in class, and you can fill it in as if you are painting in class. I would say because you are missing out on using actual coloring materials, I would ask that if you can, to use the paintbrush tool, because that'll make it a little bit of a more real experience. So that's our first primary color. The next one is red, and try to get the brightest shade of red. So go to your red on the side, and then in this little middle section, pull it all the way to the right. That'll get you your most saturated form of red. And we're going to skip one box, so red won't be directly next to blue, but it will be one over. It'll be right here. And we're going to fill this in here. And I might make my brush a little bit smaller. I'm going kind of quickly, but hopefully you will be a bit neater with this than I am. Just for the sake of time, I'm going a little bit quick. Okay, and that will be my red. The last primary color we have is, can you tell me? Just kidding, I can't hear you. It's yellow. Okay, so same thing. We're not going to put yellow directly next to red. We're going to leave one space in between, and now we're going to fill in yellow right over here. And just fill in the section as best as you can. Sweet. Okay, so now we have our three primary colors. To get our secondary colors, we're going to go ahead and mix two of the primaries to make them. So if we start over here, just looking at the blue and the red. So the thing that's going to be in between blue and red is what you get when you mix those two together. So mixing together blue and red, what will you get? You'll get purple. So we're just going to pick purple on this color wheel. If you were in class, you would be actually mixing these colors together. But because we're not, we're just going to pick it on the color wheel. And if you can see here, this is kind of like a cheat sheet. This color wheel, because we have blue here, we have red here, purple will be right in between. Okay? All right. And now we'll fill this in. Yeah, and like I said, if we were in class, you would be using actual blue paint and red paint. You wouldn't be using purple paint, because we want to get the experience of mixing those two colors together. And if you have colored pencils, if you're using colored pencils to make your color wheel, you might experiment with layering blue underneath, kind of like this, and then layering red on top, like this. I don't think you can do it super well on the sketch. Oops, that was purple. I don't think you can do it super well on the Sketchbook app right now. But if you're using colored pencils, trying to layer those things together. Okay, now we will move on to what is in between yellow and red. In between yellow and red is orange. So red here, yellow here, orange in between. So we'll pick out an orange and fill this in. Oops. Awesome. Okay, and we're almost done. Last section of our color wheel. We'll be mixing the two primaries, yellow and blue, together, and that will get us green. Yellow, blue, and green. Okay, and green definitely wouldn't be this vibrant if we were painting it, so if you want, you can tone down the color a little bit by just dragging it slightly towards the black. But you don't have to do that. If you like the really bright green for your color wheel, that is completely fine. Green is still green. So it still counts. Oops. Not mean to do that. Okay. Okay. And hopefully when you're completing this color wheel, you will be a little bit neater about it than I am. Like I said earlier, just doing this for the sake of time. Okay, and with our tint, what we will be doing is picking one color you want to focus in on. So for my color, I'm going to focus in on blue. I'm going to take blue, go to the purest form of blue. So picking blue and then going all the way to the right of this little diamond in the center. Oops, like that. Okay, so you can decide which side you want to be the darkest form of blue. A tint, like I said earlier, is adding white to it. So one side is going to be darker than the other. I'm going to pick my left side to be the darkest. And I'm going to fill that in as best as I can. Just like that. To add white, we will just be moving this little circle slightly up because white is at the top right here. So we're just going to move it slightly up a little bit and fill in the next circle with that new color. And we'll just keep moving it slightly up, filling it in. Moving on to the next one. And it's a little bit tedious, but just keep working at it. And if you can fill in the circle a little bit more nicely than I am, like I said earlier, please do that. And the last square won't be completely white, but it'll be really close to it. So as close as you can get to white without being completely white is what we want. See how freaking close that is? Yep. Okay, so that is our tint scale we have. Looks very nice. For our shade, we will essentially be doing the same thing, but going to black. So I'm still going to use blue. If you want to switch to a different color, you're welcome to do that, but you don't have to. I am going to start on the right again, just with this pure form of blue. Oops. Okay. And instead of going up towards the white, we're going to go down towards the black. So I'm going to add a little bit of that darkness to it. And square by square, just gradually adding more black. Almost done. All right. And there we have our tint and shade scale. So they look pretty different. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do, I almost forgot, is we're going to label each of these, what color they are, and if they are primary or secondary color. So we have red right here. And if you want to either put it on the color wheel or you can put it outside, like red P. Now you know that's red primary. And this is purple secondary. Blue primary. Oops. Green secondary. Yellow primary. And last but not least, orange secondary. Okay, and here we have our little color wheel. Okay, like I said earlier, hopefully this looks a little bit nicer than mine. If you want to use the text box to write in the names of your color and if they're primary or secondary, that might be a little bit of a neater option for you to use. So I might suggest that. And moving that text to the correct spot, but I'm not going to do that right now, just so you get an idea of what this color wheel should look like if you're doing it on Sketchbook app. This is what you should come out with, but a little bit neater than mine. Thanks for watching. If you have any further questions that are unanswered from the Canvas daily instruction sheet, just shoot me a Canvas message and I will get back to you. All right, thank you.